and coordination failures and all those things that we suffer from right now. So I could imagine a distant future where, in fact, AI is perhaps even less visible than it is today.
Great. Finally, you, Elon, as far as I know, never ever expressed any concerns about AI, right? I'm just wondering if
It'll be fine.
If there is any concerns, in particular, any concerns that where you see there's a very clear thing we should be doing now that are going to help.
Well, I've been trying to think of, like, what is an actual good future? What does that actually look like? Or at least bad, or how you want to characterize it. Because to a point that was made earlier, I think maybe by Sam and maybe by others, that we're headed towards either superintelligence or civilization ending. Those like the two things that are like that'll happen. Intelligence will keep advancing. The only thing that would prevent it from advancing is something that puts civilization into stasis or destroys civilization. So then we have to figure out what is a world that we would like to be in, where there is this digital superintelligence. I think and then another point that I think is really important to appreciate is that all of us already are cyborgs. So you have a machine extension of yourself in the form of your phone and your computer and all your applications. You are already superhuman. But by far, you have more power, more capability than the President of the United States had 30 years ago. If you have an internet link, you have an oracle of wisdom. You can communicate to millions of people. You can communicate to the rest of Earth instantly. I mean, these are magical powers that didn't exist not that long ago. So everyone is already superhuman and a cyborg. The limitation is one of bandwidth. So we're bandwidth constrained, particularly on output. So our input is much better, but our output is extremely slow. If you want to be generous, you could say maybe it's a few hundred bits per second or a kilobit or something like that output. But the way we output is like we have our little meat sticks that we move very slowly and push buttons or tap a little screen. And that's just extremely slow. And compare that to a computer which can communicate at the terabit level. These are very big orders of magnitude differences. Our input is much better because of vision. But even that could be enhanced significantly. So I think that the two things that are needed for a future that we would look at and conclude is good, most likely, is we have to solve that bandwidth constraint with a direct neural interface. I think a high bandwidth interface to the cortex, so that we can have a digital tertiary layer that's more fully symbiotic with the rest of us. Like we've got the cortex and the limbic system, which seem to work together pretty well. They've got good bandwidth, whereas the bandwidth to our digital tertiary layer is weak. So I think if we can solve that bandwidth issue, and then AI can be widely available. So AI, the analogy to nuclear bombing is not exactly correct. It's not as though it's going to explode and create a mushroom cloud. It's more like if there were just a few people that had it, they would be able to be essentially dictators of Earth, or whoever acquired it, and if it was limited to a small number of people, and it was ultra smart, they would have dominion over Earth. So I think it's extremely important that it be widespread, and that we solve the bandwidth issue. And if we do those things, then it will be tied to our consciousness, tied to our will, tied to the sum of individual human will, and everyone would have it. So it would be sort of still a relatively even playing field. In fact, it would be probably more egalitarian than today.
Great, thank you so much. That's in fact the perfect segue into the last question I want to ask you before we open it up to everybody. something I have really missed in the discussion about really advanced intelligence beyond human is more thought about the upside. We have so much talk about existential risk, and not just in the academic context, but just flip on your TV, check out Netflix. What do you see there in these scientific visions of the future? It's almost always dystopias, right? For some reason, fear gives more clicks than positive visions. But if I have a student coming into my office at MIT asking for career advice, the first thing I'm going to ask her is, where will you want to be in 20 years? And if she just says, well, maybe I'll get cancer, maybe I'll get run over by a bus, that's a terrible way to think about career planning. Right? I want her to be on fire and say, my vision is I want to do this, and here are the things that could go wrong, and then you can plan out how to avoid those problems and get it. I would love to see more discussion about the upsides, the futures we're really excited about, so we can not just try to avoid problems for the sake of avoiding problems, but to get to something that we're all really on fire about. So to start off, I'll just tell you something that makes me really excited about advanced artificial intelligence. Everything I love about civilization is the product of intelligence. If we, for some reason, were to say, well, I'm scared about this technology thing, let's just press pause on it forever. There's no interesting question about if we're going to have human extinction. The question is just when. Is it going to be a super volcano? Is it going to be the next dinosaur killing class asteroid? The last one happened 60 million years ago, so how long is it going to be? Pretty horrible future to just sit and wonder when